We are back here at 8:15. Ty Englebright in studio. We've got 59 degrees, and it's light rain. And I am pleased to welcome into the studio Mr. Ben Wofford. And Ben is the director of the Caldwell County EMS. He is with ComCare, and it's a pleasure to have you today, sir.
Well, thank you for having me very much.
Yes, sir. And we're glad you're here. First of all, we want to say thank you to you and your team. And this is National EMS Week.
It is. It is. Every year this week, we like to take a minute and just, say thank you to all the people that work EMS here and all over the country. We don't get a lot of recognition sometimes for what we do, and it's nice if you see an ambulance crew out, say thank you to them, appreciate what they do, take this week to do that.
Yeah, I think, my mom was a registered nurse. I spent a little time hanging out in ERs. I've got friends that are paramedics and EMTs, and it's quite a lifestyle. It's different
it is
than
definitely
the average
a lifestyle.
bear. And that's one thing that I've noticed in just my observation of this. These folks, the sleep and the patterns are just all over the place. The hours can be all over the place. The pay is, for what they do. You look at and it's like that for a lot of emergency responders, of course. Yeah. And you can say, you look at athletes. Now, granted, it's entertainment. It's a different scale, but still, it's for what you all do. You put your lives on the line to save lives. It's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We appreciate that. It's a personality that wants to serve the community, and it's definitely, like you said, a lifestyle. Everything that we do, in a way, revolves around our profession in EMS. We work holidays, we work weekends, we work birthdays, and you miss a lot of events. You miss a lot of what's normally important to people and time off for people. We work through that because you got to have an ambulance there. People expect it there 24/7, 365, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that, and we do it because we love it.
You definitely have to have a servant's heart, I would think.
Yes, sir.
And have an attitude of serving and of giving, because you never know whether you're on shift or off shift of when you might be needed.
That's
and
right.
It might be you off shift, but come up on something.
Sure.
And I know you just don't drive right by. You get out, if you have that kind of attitude to help, correct?
Yeah. Especially here in a tight-knit community, more rural community. If we have a big event, a big accident or something like that, we're going to have people coming from home because they hear it on the radio, they hear it going on, and they drop what they're doing and they come to help, whether they're on duty or not.
Right.
Because they know that's their job and that's their duty to help out and help their community.
Well, we can't thank you all enough. Now, let's talk about this week a little bit. This has been since the mid-'70s. It looks like the Ford administration authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners, the work you all do in all our communities. And, of course, you're with ComCare, and you're director of our EMS here. And ComCare is fairly new to the county, I would think. You all have come in and manage our ambulance service.
Yeah, we took over operations in December of last year.
Right.
And we just, we're going through the yearly contract process right now with the fiscal court.
Right.
So what ComCare does, we like to say EMS solutions for rural Kentucky, because that's what we specialize in, is rural EMS.
Okay.
Which is a lot harder to operate in a lot of ways. We rely a lot on reimbursement, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, and sometimes it's hard to make ends meet, especially for a rural community, and especially around Kentucky. A lot of these rural communities ran their own ambulance service for many, many years, but it's gotten hard, and it's hard to keep them in the black.
Yes.
It's hard to keep from losing a lot of money, and what we found is we can partner up with the communities, with the fiscal courts, and provide a high-quality ambulance service and be good stewards of the community's tax money at the same time. And they can, the people of Caldwell County deserve the best ambulance service that they can get, and that's what we try to provide.
Right. And I think we've always had that. And, again, it's those faces that we know.
Sure.
Whether it's just a routine call to the nursing home, a lift assist. I hear that an awful lot.
Sure.
Or something, more serious. And so I'm sure it's comforting in whatever situation that you're in where you need an ambulance to see that familiar face and that smile and that comfort to know that
Absolutely.
there's somebody there.
And it's important for people to understand this is still Caldwell County EMS.
Right.
You know, ComCare manages it, and we do operations, day-to-day operations, things like that. But this is still the people of Caldwell County's ambulance service. It's the same people here. The county owns the equipment. The people live here that work here every day. It's their community that they're serving.
Right. And tell us about the structure that you have out there. Of course, it's 24 hours, and we have local crews. Is there one crew usually on, and then one on standby usually?
We have one crew that's on 24 hours a day, and it's ALS, which means it's staffed with a paramedic.
Right.
We have what we call our day crew. So 7 days a week, we have an extra crew there during the day, 10 or 12 hours. And we also have a crew that's on call. So if we get busy, we get backed up on calls, things like that, then they would come in, respond from home, come get our own ambulance.
Okay.
So we can strive to always, anytime someone calls 911, an ambulance is going to show up in a timely fashion.
Wow. Tell us about, just maybe give the folks listening an idea of what an average day for someone who works in ambulance and their runs might be. I know, there could be a day of downtime, but just
Sure.
just maybe an average day, how it starts, and then where it might end up.
Well, it's certainly not 24/7 excitement. There's a lot of monotony to it. Just like any other job, we show up, we have to check all our equipment.
Right.
We have to make sure medications are in date, that batteries are charged, everything's ready to go if we do have an emergency. The trucks themselves have to be cleaned, maintenanced. Our building has to be maintenanced and cleaned up every day.
Sure.
So it's kind of a little bit of routine how we start the day off, and then you've got 24 hours that anything could happen. It could be kind of a slow, boring day sometimes, and then sometimes you have days where you just never stop, and it seems like you're never going to get a break and sit down and rest and get something to eat.
And you never know. It's kind of like grabbing into a grab bag.
Sure.
You just
That's
never
exactly
know what
right.
you're going to pull out.
Yeah, could be absolutely anything under the sun.
And you've got to be ready for anything. Again, whether it's that just lift assist or something worse than that. This is a great week to honor you guys. I know I was not aware there's actually a board for emergency medical services and their personnel. Just doing a little research, but yeah, this has been on since 1974, and it's not necessarily all about ambulances too. I know when your relationship with the various medical centers and Air Evac, you all have a relationship with all these other entities as well.
Sure.
Because when you go to an accident scene or whatever, it's all about the cooperation, isn't it?
That's right. It's right. It's really, we call it the chain of survival, and it starts, when you call 911, you talk to the highly skilled 911 operators that we have here.
We appreciate them as well.
Absolutely.
Because that is a tough
Absolutely.
job.
We couldn't do our job if they weren't doing theirs and doing it very, very well. And then we work very, very closely with fire departments, law enforcement, air medical, like you said, and then, of course, all the local hospitals around here
Right.
that we take patients in and out of every day. And everybody has to be doing their job and doing it very, very well for us to be able to look good.
Definitely. Is there anything, you're sitting here in the radio station, is there something that you want to tell the radio audience that you've always wanted folks to know about emergency medical services and what you all do? Is there anything that's just, man, I wish I could just
Probably
scream to the top of the mountain?
The first thing that would come to mind, and my guys would probably kick me if I didn't say it, is we're not ambulance drivers.
Right.
This is a fairly young profession in the grand scheme of things. It started out in the late 70s when
Noticed
it became professional, and it started out in the funeral homes. They would send out a hearse with a lot of times one person. They'd pick you up and just drive real fast to the hospital. And we haven't done a great job as a profession educating people in what we do since then.
Right.
These are highly skilled people. They go to school for years
Yes.
To be able to do what they do, just like a nurse or anybody else in medicine. And we're providing an emergency room on wheels to you. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment and years of training are showing up when you call 911, and that's what you need. That's what you deserve as the taxpayers of Caldwell County.
Yes. And it starts, I guess, our paramedics have different levels of training too, correct?
Yeah, there's in the state of Kentucky, we have 4 different levels of training we recognize. It starts out with an EMR, emergency medical responder, which is our basic entry level. Then the EMT, the advanced EMT, and then the highest level is the paramedic.
Yes. And certain runs and certain calls, whether it's a transport to hospitals, that you have to have a paramedic.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't, but a lot of times you when you hear a dispatch, they'll say we'll need a paramedic.
Right, and it just depends on the skill set, what kind of medications the patient's getting or monitoring they need, and that kind of thing.
But that is the highest level, I guess, of as far as EMS personnel to be is that paramedic.
Right.
because-
Takes
yeah.
the most training, most years invested in it.
And how long does it take to become a paramedic? If a young person out there listening go, you know what, that is something that really interests me.
It's an associate's degree or equivalent in the state of Kentucky.
Okay, good deal. And they can usually start that at a community college or a technical school.
They can, yeah. We've got really a pretty bad shortage in Kentucky, nationwide, in Kentucky, especially in western Kentucky, of paramedics.
That's what I understand.
Madisonville Community College runs a great program. Western Kentucky University out of Bowling Green had a program for many, many years that they just shut down.
Wow.
So we're working very hard at ComCare. We put on a lot of classes. We work pretty closely with KCTCS out of Paducah, Owensboro,
Yes.
places like that. So we're trying to get more educated, get more paramedics on the street. But we need more. It's getting a little tight budget wise everywhere.
How many folks do you manage out there? Do you know off the top
Our
of your-
roster's between 20 and 30 people
Okay.
that we keep full time and part time.
And that's the EMTs, the paramedics, and
Right.
everybody. It has to do with actually the ambulance and the emergency medical services out at the EOC.
Right, correct.
Okay. All right. Well, what are you guys doing to celebrate this week? I mean, are you doing anything special? You got cakes out there?
Yeah. We've been trying to treat the crews pretty good this week.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get them some lunches, things like that. And of course, the local hospitals are pretty good to us.
Right.
They give us some spreads, something to eat, a little place to take a break while we're there dropping the patients off, and the dispatchers and everybody like that tries to take care of us too and say thank you, and we really appreciate that.
No doubt. It is, again, one of those things. I think it's sometimes when you live in an area and you have all these great amenities and resources, you sometimes tend to just sort of fly over your head. And I think that's kind of the same way with our EMS and our ambulance service personnel. Not that we don't honor you and respect you and appreciate you, but I think sometimes it's just you just take it for granted. You don't mean to,
Sure.
but it's just like the police officers and the firefighters that you have. You just expect them to be there. But
That's right.
this is a week to step back and reflect and stop and think about what you guys do to help us.
Sure. We certainly don't do the job for money or for recognition. We do it because we love serving our community. But it's nice to, if you see a crew out, maybe stop and say thank you this week.
Definitely do that. We want you to acknowledge that because this has been going on since 1974. It's 43 years. It's the annual National EMS Week, and it's a week to stop, recognize, and appreciate those that work in emergency medical service, first responders, ambulance, paramedics, EMTs, just all the folks you see. And they're not just ambulance drivers.
That's right.
We want to take time and thank you from here at WPKY for what you do. We keep scanners on. We hear the dispatches, and we sometimes know the wrecks that you go to, and sometimes we know it's just routine. But there are a lot of times when it's not routine, and that's when you guys really have to respond and get going. And we can't thank you enough for what you do day in and day out for us, and we certainly appreciate it. And thank you all for what you do. Tremendous job.
Thank you very much. We're proud we can serve this community.
Well, we appreciate it. Anything else before we wrap up today? Is there anything else you would like to discuss? Have I missed anything?
No, I think we hit the highlights.
Okay.
We surely appreciate you having us in. We don't get to do something like this every day, so it's nice to get in here and talk to everybody.
We want to have you anytime. Anytime that ComCare, emergency medical services, or needs to get information to us, or we need to get it to the public quickly for you, we want you to use that. This is your radio station, and we want you to use this.
All right,
that.
thank you.
So that's Ben Wofford, and thank you, Ben, very much for being here today, and thank your staff and everybody who works for you. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's Ben Wofford. He is the director of Caldwell County Emergency Medical Services. They are housed out at the Emergency Operations Center here in Caldwell County. He is the director, and he is with ComCare, who runs our EMS here in Princeton. We can't thank them enough. And folks, if you're out and about and you see one of these folks this week working hard, you see them in restaurants having lunch, pat them on the back, thank them, because it's an important job that they do, and they keep us safe, they protect us, they take care of us in times of need, and we can't thank them enough. So appreciate Ben stopping by. All right.